The Thunder Canyon Caves, nestled in the remote Carrizo Gorge wilderness, are no ordinary caves. These are talus caves, labyrinths of narrow passages carved by ancient streams between massive, piled-up boulders. Known to local cavers as a test of skill and nerve, the caves demand precision, endurance, and respect. For the uninitiated, they're a claustrophobic maze where one wrong move can spell disaster. On October 21, 2023, a group of friends, led by a 29-year-old woman eager to explore, descended into this underworld. She wasn't a novice. She'd caved before, drawn to the adrenaline of squeezing through tight crevices and navigating the silent, otherworldly beauty of the underground. Armed with headlamps, helmets, and the camaraderie of her group, she felt ready. But Thunder Canyon had other plans. The group was traversing a particularly tight section of the cave, a slot barely a foot wide, when disaster struck. The woman, leading the way, wedged herself into a 12-inch gap. Her body, contorted in the unyielding rock, refused to budge. She was stuck, 100 feet below the surface. At 10 a.m. on Sunday, after 16 grueling hours, the team's persistence paid off. The roping system worked. Slowly, carefully, they eased her out of the gap. Cheers echoed through the cave as she took her first free breath in nearly a day. But the ordeal wasn't over. The team still had to navigate her back through the cave's labyrinth to the surface, a journey that tested their skill and her resilience. A CAL FIRE helicopter awaited at the surface, ready to airlift her to safety. Paramedics treated her for exhaustion, scrapes, and bruises, but miraculously, she was expected to make a full recovery. The rescue was a testament to the skill and coordination of the San Diego Sheriff's Department, CAL FIRE, CAL OS, and the San Bernardino Cave Rescue Team. The woman's survival was a miracle, but it came with a warning. Thunder Canyon Caves are a magnet for adventure seekers, but they demand respect. Sheriff's Lieutenant Jeffrey Ford issued critical advice for cavers: never go alone, tell someone your plans, stay on marked trails, and watch for hazards like tight crevices and uneven footing. Even though there's no cell service in a cave, Ford said, bring a fully charged phone to call for help once you're out. For the caving community, this rescue was a stark reminder of the risks beneath the Earth's surface. David Angel, reflecting on the mission, called it a learning experience. I'll be able to teach students better how to do rescue, he said. Compared to other adventure sports, caving is relatively safe, but incidents like this highlight the need for preparation and vigilance. Deep in West Virginia's quiet hills, near the tiny town of Rennick, hides Bone Norman Cave, a monster of a cave with 15 miles of twisting tunnel, raging rivers, and jaw-dropping rock formations. Its Norman side sparkles with waterfalls and crystal-like stones, but the Bone side? It's a muddy, boring slog that messes with your head, making every turn look the same. The cave stays a chilly 52 degrees year-round, and the Rennick River above can flood it in minutes, turning it into a death trap. In January 2012, 3 college kids, Jay Puccina, Grant Blaisdell, and Matt Stevens, all barely in their 20s, decided to take it on. These guys weren't cave experts. They'd explored maybe 10 caves, nothing compared to the pros who spend years underground. But they were pumped, ready to push their limits. They drove from Kaiser to the cave, planning to go in, camp overnight, and crawl out a secret backdoor route. Caving's not like basketball. One wrong move, and you're not just embarrassed, you're gone. They'd been smart, taking on tougher caves bit by bit, but Bone Norman was a giant leap. On a freezing Saturday, Blaisdell, who'd been there once before, led Jay and Matt into the cave's main passage. It's a 3-mile hike, easy for beginners but a real grind. After 8 hours of slipping through mud and squeezing past rocks, they hit a campsite deep inside at 5 a.m. Sunday, totally wiped out. This wasn't a cozy spot with a campfire. It was a cold, rocky patch next to a roaring river, just safe enough to crash. Their backpacks, stuffed with sleeping bags, food, and extra lights, felt like boulders on their backs. They were running on fumes after long drives from different West Virginia colleges and barely any sleep. They crashed for 4 hours on the hard ground, but time was running out. They had to move to make their exit and not freak out their families. Fear was starting to claw at them. They could have turned back the way they came, but they picked the bone side, a muddy, confusing path that's easy to get lost in. As they pushed on, their hearts pounded, and the cave's sameness messed with them. Mud sucked at their boots, and their feeling of fear bubbled up. They were so tired their eyes played tricks, missing key landmarks. After hours, they slammed into a solid rock dead end. No way out, just walls mocking them. They'd missed a Bone Norman link, a tiny, 1-foot-high crawl so tight it looked like a trap. It led to Devil's Nest, a brutal tunnel to the outside world. After 11 hours of nothing, back to the camp by 9 p.m. Sunday, 3 days late, shivering in the damp cold. They snatched 2 hours of sleep, splashing freezing river water on their faces to stay awake. Taking a hard look, they saw their food and lights were almost gone. No light in a cave? You're as good as buried. Too weak for the 6-mile trek back, they stayed put. They hiked back a bit, scratching. Help us, January 13th, 2012, by river. Into the mud and sticking bright orange tape on the walls to guide rescuers. They knew their families would have called for help by now. They settled in for a long wait, trading dumb jokes to keep the terror at bay. They'd been smart, telling friends they'd be out by Sunday noon. When they didn't show, their families got scared and called the Rennick Fire Department. Rescuers found their cars at the cave, knowing they were inside. The first teams thought they took the easy 3-mile path, but the kids were 6 miles deep on a wild route. 25 rescuers split into 5 groups, but the cave's twist stumped them. Soon, hundreds of cavers, including 2 from Virginia Tech Caving Club, joined the hunt. They got how bold college kids think and spotted the mud message and tape. Racing to the camp, they prayed the trio wasn't hurt or split up. Time was running out. By 6 p.m. Monday, the kids were losing hope. Then, at 7 p.m., a faint light flickered in the dark, getting brighter. They knew they were saved. The Virginia Tech crew fed them snacks, helped pack, and led them to the Norman exit. After 2 days in a freezing, dark prison, they stumbled into fresh air, alive but shaken. Blaisdell owned up. They weren't ready for this beast. But instead of quitting, he hit the books, learning from pros to become a rescuer like the ones who saved him. In North Florida's Merritt's Mill Pond, a peaceful fishing spot in Jackson County, 7 secret caves lurk underwater, tempting cavers with beauty but hiding deadly traps. On June 9, 2020, Clyde Douglas Rorex, a pro caver, set out alone to tackle hole in the wall cave. What happened next is a creepy puzzle that still haunts cavers everywhere. Rorex was no rookie. He parked his boat at a rickety dock, strapped on his side mount gear, a smart setup for squeezing through tight spots, and slipped into the water. Nobody saw him go in, but when he didn't come back, panic spread. Ed Sorensen, a cave rescue hero who runs Cave Adventures, got the call. He raced to the pond, expecting a tough job, but what he found was pure horror. Sorensen spotted Rorex's empty boat floating alone. He geared up and dropped into the water, finding the cave's hidden entrance 10 feet down, a narrow slit most would miss. It opened into a bigger chamber, but first he passed a spooky warning, a Grim Reaper sign screaming, "Nothing here's worth your life." Past that, the cave dropped 85 feet straight down, like a black chimney. Sorensen, used to these nightmares, went deeper, his light barely cutting the dark. Then he froze. Rorex's body was floating right near the entrance, way too close to make sense. Getting him out was easy, but Rorex was long gone, beyond saving. The real head-scratcher was why he died. His regulator was still in his mouth, but both tanks were empty. His gear was perfect, and his dive computer showed he planned a 45-minute trip with enough air for 90 minutes. So, what went wrong? The computer said Rorex hung out at one depth for 11 to 12 minutes before turning back. Was he chilling, staring at the cave's creepy formations, or stuck in some unseen disaster? Sorensen went back the next day, hunting for answers. In calm cave water, any fight should have left clouds of silt, but he found nothing, no stirred-up mud, no caught gear. Rorex's death was called an accidental drowning, but it's a ghost story with no ending. How does a pro with extra air run dry? What happened in those missing minutes? Sorensen guessed he got tangled, but with no proof, it's like the cave swallowed the truth. Even the best cavers aren't safe from its curse. This one's a real chiller. What's the spookiest cave mystery you've heard? Share it in the comments. In March 2004, 6 British soldiers dove into Mexico's Alpazat Cave, a massive 60-mile maze tucked in Puebla's steamy rainforests and volcanic hills. Charles Melton, Chris Mitchell, John Rowe, Toby Hamnett, Jonathan Sims, and Simon Cornhill, part of the Combined Services Caving Association, saw it as a bonding adventure. They'd planned it for 3 years, expecting a quick 36-hour trip with food for 10 days. But a freak storm turned their dream into a nightmare. On March 14th, they marched in, their headlamps flashing on Alpazat's glowing limestone walls, carved over thousands of years. 2 days in, just 35 minutes from the exit, a monster storm hit, flooding the cave like a giant trap. They scrambled to a rocky ledge 15 feet above a roaring river, throwing up a shaky camp. The cave's 80-degree heat and sticky air made them strip down, their minds cracking under the pressure. They stretched their food, munching chocolate cake to feel human, and used water purifiers and hydropower lights to hang on. They had a mole phone, an old-school radio from the 1960s, to call their surface team, but the team waited 5 days to alert Mexican officials, which raised eyebrows. Big-time rescuers Richard Stanton and Jason Mallinson from the British Cave Rescue Organization swooped in. Stanton, a retired firefighter and cave rescue legend, and Mallinson fought through 1,000 feet of flooded tunnels to reach the soldiers. They taught a few to swim in a tiny pool near camp, a scary last-minute lesson. When the water dropped, the rescue took 3 hours, and everyone got out alive, no major injuries. But the trouble wasn't over. Mexican officials didn't trust the soldiers' military gear, like gas detectors, thinking they were after uranium for bombs. The delayed alert and wild media stories didn't help. Caving pro Juan Jairo shut down the uranium talk, saying Alpazat's limestone can't hold it. Still, the team got slapped with visa charges for hiding their military status, facing 18 months in jail. After some tense talks, they were let go and flew home, their epic trip soured by drama. This story's got it all: floods, rescues, and spy-level suspicion. What's the craziest cave rescue you've heard about? Drop it in the comments, smash that like button if these tales gave you chills, and subscribe with the bell icon for more heart-stopping survival stories. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you in the next video.